Survivor Specialist Phil and Alexa are back to predict episode number 4 of Survivor 42. And this has been a weird type of train wreck this season so far in a fun way. Last week's episode definitely caused some drama over on the Twitter sphere and even amongst the Phil and Alexa podcast. Alexa was supposed to be here Wednesday, but she bailed because of Chanel's performance. Let's just put it that way.
I switched out at the last second.
She did.
Blew her vote.
She said, I can't show my face after this. It's just too embarrassing. But no, this will be good because Alexa has not actually said anything about what went down at Tribal Council last week. One of the crazier Tribal Councils we've had in these early episodes. And it didn't even take them combining 2 tribes to have this happen, Malcolm. So here we are coming into the final 14. I think it's a pretty interesting group that we have left. Every time you think that a tribe is definitely on the bottom, they always seem to find a way out of it. Last week, we didn't even know Blue was there. So it was pretty much like we were back to 2 tribes anyway. But coming to this one, we got 5 on green, 5 on blue, 4 on the orange tribe. But because orange lost Jackson, realistically, they have 5 as well. Every tribe has lost 1 immunity challenge. Mm-hmm. So that's more of the point I'm getting to here. So it's been even so far.
Yeah, even though it kind of has no business being this even, it's actually working out pretty well. Blue has really bounced back.
Except we don't know what they're doing.
Right. I guess they bounced back in terms of challenge performance.
Just not existing. But yes. Yeah. So I do want to ask you this, though, and I want to see what you think, because obviously I've been watching since day one. You've been watching since Panama. So that's close enough to day one at this point. I mean, that's 2006. So like we're getting there. I was talking to some of my friends who are really big fans of the old school seasons and all of that. How did you feel about them stopping the challenge and not taking away any type of reward or anything? Like, I understand that one of these tribes has to win immunity, but how did you feel that they still got reward as well, and that Jonathan didn't get anything extra for his tribe for completing the challenge?
I honestly hadn't considered that. I like, in terms of them pausing it in general, I mean, like, I don't know. I can sit on my bed and say, like, that's so soft. Like, there have been so many harder challenges, but it didn't even, sure, it looked difficult. It just looks like it wouldn't be possible to complete. So, like, them pausing it, like, I don't know. I feel like I could have screamed and been like, oh my God, that's so lame. But it sounds like there was just going to be no chance of it even finishing. I honestly hadn't considered the reward. I think, shockingly, maybe Jeff decided that they're all starving enough and he's taken enough away that he doesn't want to net 0. But now that you're saying it, I feel like orange should have been slightly more rewarded just because they actually did complete it.
Yeah,
it's a good point. I hadn't thought about that.
And here's JC. Jonathan's extra reward was the shout out from Jeff post challenge, putting a target further on his back. And
I'll say that target was way too big before Jeff even said that.
Like, it was his bicep.
Well, yeah, the target is his entire bicep. That's exactly it. I think Jonathan walked onto that beach knowing exactly when he was going to become a target.
He knows what game he has to play, and I don't think that hurts him anyway. I just think he should have been rewarded more. And it was funny because I was having this conversation. It wasn't like bitter, because all of us are really enjoying this season more than season 41. So there's no bitterness coming from this. However, they need to stop saying it's the most difficult season ever if they're not going to make them complete this challenge, because back in like season 2 or 3 or 4, Jeff would have let them drown. Like, seriously, Jeff would not have cared. He would have been like, too bad. If you can't figure it out, then I guess you guys are just going to lose. Like, I don't know if we've ever seen this kind of thing happen before. And also, I wonder how much of this is just that they are kind of veering away from putting quote unquote stronger people on the show. Like, there's one Jonathan on this season, and then there's nobody else who's even close to Jonathan. Is that what could be causing this a bit too? Because you think about the older seasons that took places on the beach or, had these difficult challenges. Even Colby, who's not like Jonathan sized by any means, he's still a pretty strong guy. I'm having trouble seeing how Blue was ever going to complete this challenge. The water would have had to be so calm. How is Blue going to complete this challenge? Is it having to do with a little bit of the casting now? And it's not that these tribes are voting out their strongest members like, happened maybe back in Micronesia. They're just not there to begin with. And that's actually a problem.
Yeah. And I hope that, like, I think Jonathan, I was actually a little shocked that they casted Jonathan, because I feel like every single other person on the cast. Oh my God, we got $1.99. Thank you so much, Catherine Allen.
Thank
Thank you
you,
so much for helping
Phil,
me
for
keep my
helping me
immunity.
kill my immunity last week. There you go.
I love that. I think that's a good thing. Yeah, she said thank you. I feel like everyone had like heavy story, like a lot of backstory, and Jonathan was like strong dude who can do pull-ups.
Mhm.
I'm really glad they casted him. I think he's awesome. And I hope that they see how Jonathan performs in challenges and the way that people talk about it and continue to cast more people similar to Jonathan because I love watching the challenges now. First of all, I think
Mhm.
the challenges have gotten a little bit of a facelift. I think they're a little more exciting this season, but he is making them more exciting. I care about challenges because there is a guy who is stronger than I can ever dream of being. And it's not just like generally athletic guy or girl. This guy is just not real. So I'm loving it. It's making me like the challenges, which I can't say I've said in quite a while.
Yeah, and I think that's a fantastic point, and this is something that I really can't help but bring up. I understand that we're trying to create characters, female characters that are bigger characters, so that we don't just have James, Ozzy, and all that. Like, get it so that there's a little bit more equality in the editing and in the confessionals, and make it so that I don't know. I don't think that they needed to change the game though to make it less emphasis on the challenges to make it more even towards women, which is I think something that they tried to do. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I think they missed the point of when they did that is Ozzy was famous because he was so good at challenges. People loved Colby because he was so good at challenges. Like by getting rid of that aspect, you're 100% right. It makes them not fun to watch. And it makes us lose out on one whole person that, it's just one person. It's not like James had that many confessionals. James barely had any
Mhm.
in Micronesia, like barely had any. Ozzy didn't have that many in Cook Islands. It was actually pretty even. It was Penner who ate them all up, and he sucked at challenges.
Yeah.
So I just think that like you can have this character, you can have this player, and you can have one of these on every tribe who really drags their team through the challenges, but isn't going to eat up all the screen time. And if people love this person because they're really good at challenges, then great. That's for a totally different reason than what they're going to love Lydia for. I think it needs to get back to that. And I think that blue and green are at a huge detriment right now that they never were even given the opportunity to have somebody even remotely close to Jonathan.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I feel like I thought they would have sort of learned the lesson a bit from the War Dog situation, but 3 Jonathans on the season would have been awesome.
Mhm.
But I feel like Blue, like Drea is a what is she? A personal
A
trainer? I
personal
don't know what
trainer,
her
yeah.
name's like she's a personal trainer, but like we're not seeing like her tribe like famously lost like a couple
She's
episodes ago.
also not 6'5" and
Right, like
260.
born this way.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I hope we get more of them. I agree with you. It is as lopsided as it is. I am shocked that all 3 tribes have gone to tribal council 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say though, I don't think Orange goes again. And I think if Jackson had not been pulled from the game, they would have had the 5 people going into the merge. Like I don't think they lose again.
Yeah, because
Just based
Jackson's
on
big. Yeah.
yeah, and just based on how uneven this is. And Pedro Bono here brings up a great point. Glamour muscles like Austin. Like that's the thing. Like Austin, James, and Ozzy are 3 completely different versions of the same archetype. And so is Colby. None of them fit the same thing. And then you look at Joel from Micronesia, who was meant to go up against Ozzy and James, and he's the 4th person voted out of the season.
Yeah.
Like it's all the same type. It's the archetype, but you're getting a different version of it. And I think getting away from the challenges and getting away from that type, it's making the challenges become less exciting when you don't have somebody who can just do something really cool like Jonathan did last week. And that's great. The same way it's cool when somebody does a puzzle in 5 slides or something like that. But Drea, there's nothing she can do to compete with Jonathan, even if she is a personal trainer, because Jonathan could walk that almost the entire challenge in the water there. And thanks, Andy Vogel, 5th voted out, but who's counting? Andy
But
Vogel is counting.
who is counting? Obviously, Andy is counting here. Um, yeah, I'm completely with that. That being said, I think like the little preview, I don't think Jonathan's going anywhere. I think
No.
it's like I think Omer is realizing that, you know, Jonathan may not be the most perfect strategic player. That is something that Jonathan himself has said. But I think, what are you going to vote him out? It's
Yeah.
a terrible idea.
Terrible idea. No way he goes home. And like McKenna and I were talking about on the podcast last week, Jonathan has a vote and Lindsey has a vote. Omer doesn't have a vote, and neither does Marianne. So are Jonathan and Lindsey really going to, like, Jonathan can't vote for himself. Is Lindsey really going to vote for Jonathan and say, screw it, that's what I want to do, and now we have a 1-1 tie? Like, that's idiotic.
They're gonna pick who goes home.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
If they lose, which I don't even think is going to be a problem.
Exactly.
All right, before we get right in here, and we have Salacious.
Ooh,
Alexa, is Jonathan dragging Phil and the podcast to victory?
oh, thank you, Salacious. I don't know who this Salacious is. This is not a friend who I paid $5 to turn around and give us $5 to, but it could be.
But anyway, do you think that it's dragging me and the podcast to victory?
That implies that I have enough muscle mass to do that, which is pretty unlikely. So I'm honored, but I don't think it's true.
No. All right, well, I let you off the hook for a bit, and then we'll get into the rankings here. But Chanel versus Daniel, this whole situation, Daniel was the only one who could vote. And he immediately went to Chanel and said, who do you want me to vote for? And she got defensive. And I think a lot of the backlash at Chanel has been, why did you get defensive? Because my whole thing was, all she has to do is say, stick with your guns. And now Hai is like, oh God, I might have to change my vote. But by acting the way she did, she gave Daniel such an out and made it wishy-washy from the start. All the cards are on the table. That Hai had no worry that they weren't gonna just do what he wanted them to do. How do you think this could have been done better? And how screwed are Chanel and Daniel now?
This could have been done better by Chanel, not risking her vote, especially after I know that we only get whatever amount of the walk we get, but especially after telling Omer that she needs her vote. If I was in his position, I would have risked my vote 10 times out of 10 hearing her say that. I think, and this is something that I've been texting to a friend, this episode in entirety, like, I hope that people who go on future seasons see an advantage that says beware, see an option to do a risk or reward, and take a beat and say, Survivor wants me to always do the thing. Sometimes not doing the thing, I wouldn't even say sometimes, I would say probably most of the time at this point, not doing the thing is better for you. Chanel got, how do you know, like, she got caught up in it. Like, I could get an extra vote. I could influence this vote. I could be in charge. And here she is having nothing. And I mean, at least she said, like, I might not have a vote to her tribe. I think she messed up big time. And then Daniel put all of his cards on the table. And I think when I first heard Hai say that, like, I'm not voting for Lydia, I was like, okay, well, then you're going to Rocks. But I think he played it perfectly. I think for as horribly as Daniel and Chanel messed up, Hai clearly had such good intuition. He knew something was sketchy. And it's really impressive that the two of them, Hai and Lydia, were able to pull this off. But I think it was just ridiculously bad gameplay by both Chanel and Daniel. The reason that I think Chanel might come out like in less trouble than him is because she just fought less.
Yeah.
Like, Daniel was like the face of it. So like that could help her save face. But I mean, how long is she out for a vote? Is it that one time?
Yeah, just that vote.
Okay.
Just that vote. So she gets her vote back, but here's the thing. Her and Daniel are not going to work together anymore. So Hai and Lydia are going to be fine. And Mike now is a wild card, and he can't vote anyway, so who cares? I actually think Daniel is in a worse spot than Chanel. We'll get to that in a bit. I think he's in a worse spot, but I think Chanel always had a better chance to win the game than Daniel did. And she just lowered her stock a lot. And I know a lot of people say, well, you can't put so much emphasis on the pre-merge because it doesn't really matter. There's no jury there, whatever. But if Lydia and Hai vote with Chanel, it's not going to be because they trust Chanel. Mike is not going to trust Chanel. No one is going to trust Chanel now moving forward on her original starting tribe. That puts you in a really bad spot now moving through the rest of the game, because how are you going to rebound from that? I don't think we've ever seen that successfully done, where somebody is totally not trusted by their tribe and then goes on to win the game. We've seen them go far. We've seen them survive a decent amount. Cochran, Jonathan Penner, all that. But I don't think we've ever actually seen that person completely win the game.
I cannot let go of the fact that Chanel could win. I agree with that about Daniel. Probably not Chanel. Like, they need none of their tribe to be on the jury, which seems fairly unlikely.
True.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's get into the rankings. Victoria Fung is leading right now with 30, Alex Trios with 29, and I'm in third with 27, actually, tied with John Millsip. Alexa, you have 21, so you're back there. But if you're a patron, make sure to remember to turn in your power rankings, because there's some of you who have forgotten we're not sending reminders, so make sure to turn in your power rankings. All right, Alexa, I already said it, so I'm just going to keep going. My number 1 and my number 2 are Jonathan and Lindsey. They can't go home this week. There is no possible way they can go home this week. Marianne doesn't have a vote. Omer doesn't have a vote. The only way that they get any type of power, Marianne, is if Tori finds her idol this week, which I do think Tori is going to find her idol this week, which could activate Marianne's idol, but Marianne saves herself. Jonathan and Lindsey could vote for Omer if they really have to. Omer still doesn't have a vote, and that's what scares me here. So I'm going to put Jonathan and Lindsey at 1 and 2, because also there's no way they're voting out Jonathan if they do lose, just because he is the strongest person in this game by far. And then I think second, Lindsey's in a good spot with everybody on that tribe. I think this is all red herrings. I do think Marianne's going to get her vote back this week, but I don't think it's going to matter, because I don't think this tribe's going to go to tribal council. So I got Jonathan 1 and Lindsey at 2.
Yeah, and I think Lindsey, like, we talk about Jonathan being the challenge beast, but Lindsey's not dragging anyone down either. Like, she's also been like quite the performer too. So that's a great one too. My 1 and 2, I actually go Lydia and then High. I think kind of for similar reasons. There aren't a lot of people who can vote on that tribe, or at least Mike can't vote. Chanel and Daniel, all 3 of them are extremely fractured, and those 2 are clearly rock solid. Why would one of them get rid of the other this week directly after what happened last week? I also don't necessarily think that tribe will go back to tribal council. So I have them at 1 and 2, and not to jump ahead, I go Jonathan 3, Lindsey 4 for kind of the exact same reasons. I'm trying to divide up my power rankings. So every tribe, I have like every tribe up top, every tribe down at the bottom. But just the math on the Jonathan and Lindsey thing just doesn't make sense. I do think that Marianne could get her vote back. So that is a good point. But that would require Mike to say the thing, which he might not.
Well, he said he would say it if Tori says it, and especially now that he lost Jenny, he will definitely say it, because we already had what do you call it? Omer say it, or Marianne said it. So Marianne said it. Mike knows he has his. He's just waiting on Tori to say it, and then he's going to say it. So, I think this is coming back this week.
Tori's getting it. I hate that we know that.
Well, yeah. I mean, Survivor, way to go. Like, so far, the editing's actually been pretty good this season. Way to go, just blowing that. I mean, that's just lazy. Like, that's just lazy. And now we all know it. And it's not even a spoiler. It's not something you had to look up on, some dark web Reddit. You could just see it in their freaking preview. It's so stupid.
Finale. Yeah.
It's so dumb. So anyway, so my number 3 is High.
Okay.
For, similar reasons. I think High's in a good spot, because if Mike, which I think he will get his advantage back, I think Mike will get his vote back and he'll get his idol. He's not going to go after High. He's going to go after either Chanel or Daniel, because he feels betrayed by them, or he's going to go after Lydia because she's the weakest person on the tribe. That's just where it's going to be. High's in a very good spot. I think High's doing really, really well. And at number 4, I do have Tori, literally just because we know that at some point she has to pick up the idol. It's the only reason.
She could pick it up and they could bop her right after.
But they can't, because she's going to go to tribal. She's going to say it. They're going to say it. Or not tribal. They're going to go to the challenge. She's going to say it. They're going to say it. And then she's going to have it.
Oh, and then she could use it.
And then she can use it. She'll have her vote. I think she's in a good spot. I don't think she's going to find it like after the challenge or something, which would actually be very funny. And then that would screw everything up, because then it's like the Survivor gods really play tricks on us. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think Tori's going to find this.
That could happen, because she could be in trouble on the blue tribe and then go idol hunting and then lose her vote because she's idol hunting. What a world we live in. I swear.
It's something.
Who is it? You went to number 4 there?
Yeah.
Okay, this may be a wild choice. I have Marianne at number 5. I think that I'm basing this off of 41, but the people who lose their votes are sort of sitting ducks, and yet why get rid of the easy vote in present day Survivor? I feel like that never, ever actually happens. Marianne, everyone knows that she has an extra vote, so they could try to buddy with her so that they can get it from her. And to your point, Tori might find this final idol. Marianne then has a vote, an extra vote, and an idol, and all of a sudden she's a hot shot. So I don't think her standing in the tribe particularly will change, but I actually don't think she's gonna go home this week.
Yeah, I mean, I would confidently put Marianne at 5 and Omer at 6 because I really
Mhm.
don't think that this tribe is going to lose, but I'll hold off. I am going to stick with your logic though, and I'm going to put Mike at 5. I
Nice.
think Mike is the second safest person on that tribe, also because when Chanel drew out the pairings, his pair was Jenny. That's why Jenny went home this week. Jenny and Mike were supposed to receive all the votes. The fact that any votes went to Lydia shows that there was a fracture in this group.
Mhm.
She gets votes. Now all of a sudden it's question marks, question marks, question marks, question marks. Okay, but Mike is now a lone wolf and he doesn't have a vote. But these become activated. Now Mike has a vote, he has an idol, and he is a total wild card on that tribe. Daniel is going to be public enemy number 1. Daniel has backed himself into a corner that I don't think he can get out of. I think he's in a lot of trouble, which sucks because I think he's on my fantasy team. Is he on my fantasy team? He is on my fantasy team, so I'm not happy about that, but I do think that he's in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I'm yeah, Daniel will I'll get to him a little bit later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point with Mike, and I also think, like, Mike was looking kind of fumbly because Daniel was like, misplaced the idol in front of Daniel, that was a bad look. He told everyone about the idol, not a great look, but now anything that Mike has done does not look as bad as what Daniel just did, so he's, like, automatically at least 2nd from the bottom
Yeah.
in that small tribe of 5.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Who do you have for number 6?
I have Drea.
Okay, I also have Dre at 6.
Okay, there you go. So Drea, I know we had a little bit of like maybe we have to get rid of her, blah blah blah. She's too strong. They're not going to get rid of her yet. They would try to get rid of her right before the merge, but they'd have to lose. Like that's not going to be this challenge. They're not going to do that this year,
Mhm.
or this week. So I have Drea here. I still think Tori, Romeo, Drea, something could be up there. I know Roxray and Swati seem like they're closer with Romeo, but Romeo just seems like he's all over the place. And we saw nothing from their tribe last week, so it's a hard one to rank. So I'm going to go with strength here. I'm going to put Dre at 6.
Yeah, I feel kind of similarly, and I think also we've sort of been seeing like, oh, Drea. Well, I can't even say this was 2 weeks ago now. Like
Mm-hmm.
Drea is kind of the leader here, but I think at the end of the day, like they, in terms of challenge strength, I can't say that I've like fully observed them, but they will always justify. I think they'll justify keeping her over Roxroy because they're probably similar in terms of challenge strength, and she's more well aligned. She and Romeo seem to have a bit of an alliance. There's the 1 30-second conversation of the women's alliance,
Mm-hmm.
just in terms of them chatting. So at least she has multiple avenues. And I don't think that clearly she's not doing anything that is like quote unquote bossy or like too leadery that it's bothering anyone enough to vote her out. So I think Dre is totally fine.
Yeah, my number 7 is the last person that I feel is safe this week. After that, I could see any of them going home, and that's Marianne.
Mhm.
I have Marianne here again. I think that she's going to get her vote back. If she doesn't, then she could be in trouble. But I also think that if she doesn't get her vote back, Jonathan and Lindsey are the only ones with votes. I think Lindsey pushes really, really, really hard to get rid of Omer over Marianne because she knows how close Jonathan and Omer are, and that
Mhm.
scares her. And then she has more power in this situation if Marianne doesn't get her vote. And then she can say, it's almost like Jeannie and JD last year. Let's keep Jeannie. She's the safer one to keep around. We can get rid of her at any time. Get rid of the JD. That's where I'm feeling with this. That's why I have Marianne at 7.
Yeah, that's a good point. And someone puts in the chat here, can Marianne use her extra vote? She cannot until she gets her vote back.
Yeah.
So that sucks big
Yep.
time.
Yep.
Okay, my number 7, I've kind of have everyone a little all over the place. I'm actually going to put Romeo at number 7. Romeo is, I think, the weakest from a physical perspective on that tribe. They've sat Romeo at least once.
I have that actually.
I
Hold on.
believe twice.
He has been sat twice. Romeo, Lydia, Daniel have all been sat twice.
Okay. But I don't think again, I'm really basing this off of absolutely zero information, but he doesn't seem like, oh yeah, let's sit Romeo. Like, can't wait to get rid of him. I think there's just like awareness all around of where he would be as a challenge performer. But I think he and Drea seem to be tight. He seems to be very smart. And and like sneaky, but not in like an obvious sense. I don't think that they would go to that like they'd potentially lose an immunity challenge and then be like, oh, Romeo's the one to get rid of.
Mhm.
I think they don't like Roxroy. I think there's enough tension with Tori that they could get rid of her. Swathi is like showing signs of wanting to be sneaky. So I think Romeo is the one who would decide who would go home rather than being the one to go home.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I kind of like Romeo's position. I also think what's a kind of a tell here is Romeo had just one confessional, not last week, the week before in episode 2, but it was the first one of like, I lost Sack. I have to do whatever I have to do. And like that was it. And then everything else was about like the women's alliance. I think that's a good thing for Romeo. I think like we're being told like, hey, there's something going on here. However, I'm gonna go with Lydia at 8, and then I'll put Romeo at number 9. So
Okay.
Lydia 8, Romeo 9. I'm not so see, they're both just so blatantly the weakest person on their tribe. And I don't care what anybody says, they are blatantly the weakest people on their tribe. It's blatant.
Mhm.
And so for me, that makes it hard to move them anywhere. But Lydia and Hai solidified themselves this week. And Chanel is not going to want to work with Daniel. So either way, Lydia and Hai are getting 3 people. The only thing that concerns me is what if Mike is able to get his vote back and he says to Chanel and Daniel, we need to vote out Lydia or I'm going to play my idol and I'm going to make sure one of you go home. That could be something that he could do because he's got to be thinking a little desperately right now because his closest ally just went home. That scares me a little bit. With Romeo, he's just so small. Like he is just so small.
So skinny.
He's reminding me though a little bit early on, and obviously not nearly as big of a personality yet, but a little bit of Kenny from Gabon. There's a little bit of Kenny to him of I am going to find a way to outsmart you straight to the end of this game. I don't
Mhm.
care how I do it, but I'm going to go from you guys didn't get rid of me at the first one. You got rid of my closest ally instead. And now you're going to let me get my wheels spinning and I'm going to figure out how to get rid of every single one of you. I think there's a little bit of Kenny to his game. And I think he's probably going to end up being the villain of this season. So I think he's safe, but I would not be shocked at all if he goes home.
That's a good comparison, the Kenny comparison. I like that a lot.
Thank you.
Um, okay, my number 8, I have Omer. So the lowest orange is number 8. Has no vote, but is tight with Jonathan. I think that Jonathan would save him before he would save Marianne. So I think he's totally fine. Number 9, I don't really know. I guess I'm gonna put Mike. Yeah, kind of same reason. Mike very well could get his vote back, but I think there's so much like Mike is the one who probably did apart from Lydia, like the least, and Jenny first and foremost, the least wrong in that
Mhm.
tribal council. So I don't think that like tensions are going to be flaring towards him. I think he's going to be just pissed that he now lost his number 1 ally. He's a free agent without a vote. I don't
Mhm.
think there's anything scary about that, but he could get his vote and suddenly, you know, ha- be more useful at tribal council. So I think he'll be okay, but I have him on the lower half.
Yeah, I just want to bring this up because I think this is interesting with the confessionals. I like to do this, especially now that we're 3 episodes in and Iko really got nothing. Tori has a confessional still, more than Jonathan, Lindsey, Hai, and Lydia. So that's saying something considering she was literally not in an episode. But Mike is currently leading with 13, and it's been a very even 13, 4, 5, and 4.
Mm.
That's pretty interesting to me because it's not like we got a huge dose of him, then he tapered off, then we got another little like he's been 4-5-4, like he's been a focal point of every episode. Whereas like Chanel feels like she was mainly in episode 3. Daniel feels like he was mainly in episode 3. Mike's been even across the board. Now, granted, that could screw him because JD was pretty even across the board too.
Yeah.
But I do think that Mike, he might be our Rob Giottis this year. He might be the one who just misses getting the final tribal council, but we watch him overcome all of this early nonsense, get that far, and he just misses it. And he's our David Wright. He's our whoever. Well, who was it last season? Heather. Just kidding. Okay, so he's our David Wright. But you know what I mean? Sarah Lucina, whatever it is, that person who just misses, and everybody says, "What if they would have made it to the end?" And Jeff makes everybody awkwardly raise their hands 4 minutes after they cast the
Oh,
vote because they're sitting there eating pizza at tribal council still.
being sad that whoever the 3rd place person
Yeah.
is sitting there right
He's
now.
sitting there. crying. But I'm going to go for my number 10. I am also going to put Omer, which is going to leave me with my bottom 4 being Roxroy, Swati, and then Daniel and Chanel. So Roxroy and Swati haven't really done anything wrong. What am I supposed to think? And I keep going back to the fact that Swati gave Tori ammunition. And I know everybody probably thinks I'm an idiot for saying that, but you gave her an out. She's desperate, and you talked to her too much and said too much, and I think that could hurt her. But anyway, that's why those are my bottom 4, but we'll talk about where they are. Omer, lowest ranked person on Orange, just like you, but I'm feeling pretty confident about Orange. He also has 12 confessionals. He's the second most on the season.
Yeah, he's looking pretty good. But so is JD. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
10 and 11, I go Tori 10, Swati at 11, kind of for the same reasons. I don't think Tori has made any major allies. At least I haven't seen any reason to. But then again, she depending on when she finds this beware advantage, she's either going to be in a great spot or she's going to be in a really, really terrible spot. Kind of same thing for Swati. I think she's fine. But I just think, out of the little that I have to work with from what we've been given from the Blue Tribe, she gave Tori some ammunition. She is showing that she wants to try something different. And I feel like if Drea or Romeo catch wind of that, they might want to just bop her instead of Roxroy.
My biggest thing with Swati is if she gets through this episode, I think she goes deep. This episode is dangerous for her because if they lose and Romeo has as much power as we think Romeo has, then Swati is the easy choice to say, let's keep strength with Roxroy and let's get rid of Swati because Tori has this idol or whatever. She's going to tell people Drea's too strong. Let's keep Roxroy so that we don't lose the numbers. But if they win this one and they have a one-person advantage, they're not going to be worried about losing strength because at worst, they even up. At worst, they go in with 3. Who cares? That's not that big of a deal. So that's where I'm torn on her. So I'm going to put Chanel next at number 11. And then I'm going to put Swati at 12. But I feel like I could put her even lower. I am concerned for her for sure.
Yeah.
Chanel, I have at 11 because I ultimately think everybody's going to go against Daniel.
I think so too. My 12, I have Chanel. I have Chanel being the second place and Daniel being the last place of that tribe. Again, I think Chanel made a huge blunder, but I don't really think, oddly enough, that's not what people seem to be talking about right now. I'm sure she's going to have to atone for that back at camp in that very first scene. But Daniel is the one who came out looking to his tribe like the bad guy. So she has her vote back. If she quiets down and plays low, I think she could be okay. But that being said, even her closest ally doesn't trust her right now. So that's why I have her in, 12th place.
I think that's fair. Yeah. So we have the same bottom 2. I do go Roxroy at 13 and Daniel at 14. I would not be surprised at all if the Green Tribe loses at all. And I think if the Green Tribe loses, I think Swati is going to go very far in this game. If the Green Tribe doesn't lose, her number could be up, but I'm going to put Daniel at the bottom. I think Daniel's a sitting duck. I think he was the one who came out looking worse than Chanel to the people there. We think Chanel looked worse for the most part. The audience for the most part think Chanel looks worse. But I do think that the people on that island think Daniel came out looking worse because of how desperate it started to seem.
Yeah.
Roxroy, I feel like I'm picking on the guy, but I just don't know what to do with him because we've seen so little. And what we have heard other people say about him when he's not around is all very, very bad. And that's not a good sign.
Yeah, that's why I'm actually going to put Daniel at 13 and Roxroy at 14. I think sometimes it's too easy to get rid of the Daniel. And I do think that he could squirm his way out of one vote and then maybe they win immunity and he sneaks his way into the merge. Roxroy, to your point, we don't have much. And what we have is generally negative. I don't really know why. He seems kind of like the dad who works too hard and thinks everyone's annoying, but I just don't see him gelling with this tribe. And I think they're probably looking and saying, well, we're never going to beat Jonathan. So there's probably not much of a point to keep him around if we're not a huge fan of him. So Daniel 13, Roxroy 14.
That's fair enough. That is fair enough.
Very similar. Yeah, I think there's 5 people who could go home this week.
We are pretty confident, though, that Orange is not going to lose.
I think they're going to be okay. I also don't want them to lose because as entertaining as that was like, we could have all just voted for each other too. You know, we had to do such a dance with so few votes, which was frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I am back this week. So Phil and I are going to be podcasting at our usual time after the episode at 9 p.m. Eastern, 9:05 p.m. Eastern, whatever. And for those of you who are patrons, we're going to record our Q&A and our retrospective on Wednesday. So one day before the end of the month, not on the last day.
Look at us. We're freaking kings right now.
Yeah, be great.
Yeah, so this, we're back to normal. Excited for this week. I Alexa, what are you thinking about this season so far as like a whole? Are you really enjoying it, or are we just overreacting because last season was so bad?
Probably both, but this group of people seems to like each other a little more than season 41 liked each other. They seem to, obviously, like, there's tension and there's drama, but it doesn't seem like too petty yet. I could very well be wrong here, but I don't know. I think that, like, the challenges have been more exciting. The advantages don't hit as hard, and because there's been so little time explaining the advantages because we already know them, we're able to spend more time with the players. And I do feel like I know them pretty well. Hopefully we'll get more attention on Blue this week, and then should be pretty even, but I am happy. I am enjoying it.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's a different, and everybody who plays Survivor has an ego. So I'm not using the word ego in a bad sense here, but there's a different kind of ego on this season with each member of the cast. Nobody feels like this is my moment to shine. This is what I must do. Like, it doesn't have that vibe. And I think that's what's making it so good, is that everybody seems relatable in some way, shape, or form, which we did not get in season 41, I don't think. So
yeah, not at all.
Anyway, we'll be back on Wednesday night, so stay tuned. See you all then, and get ready, patrons. We'll be there on Wednesday, so get excited.